Welcome to
Theories
of the third kind.
Welcome to Theories of the Third Kind. My name is Aaron. The other host joining me is Danielson.
Hello.
Now, before we start today's episode, Daniel has an announcement he would like to make.
If you would like to support the show, you could do so by joining our premium subscription service, Supercast. For just $6.66 a month, you can join our premium service, which you get premium audio episodes every week.
That are all ad-free.
I fucked that all up, but we're going with it.
Also, if you're a big baller and you want to spend some little extra change and want to see our faces rather than just seeing us once a week on YouTube, you can pay $9.99 a month and see an extra episode of us, the video version and the audio version, and the entire back catalog of those premium audio and video episodes for just $9.99 a month. And you can cancel anytime. No commitment.
Now, we know things are tough out there right now, so if you can't afford a premium membership, but you still want to help us out, you can do so by leaving a written review on iTunes or Spotify.
That helps us out a lot.
However, don't feel pressured. If you don't want to, you don't have to. We just want you guys, girls, aliens, reptilians, Bigfoot, Sasquatches, Chupacabras, ghosts, Illuminati members, underground lizard people, whoever or whatever you are, to enjoy the show. Also, this podcast is entirely human-made. No AI were harmed or used in the process.
Also, if you want to sign up, which I forgot to mention, to our premium subscription service, you can go to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com, click right there on the front page. It will say Supercast, click on it, and it will take you over and you can sign up. So there you go.
Boom.
And that is the end of our announcements. So today's episode is called Cryptids Continued. We have previously done a Cryptids episode. Of course, it wasn't a video version because we didn't have video back then. But now we are doing another Cryptids episode where we have chosen 4 very unique cryptids that we're going to be covering. And that's what today's episode is going to be. Also, before we start today's episode, I just want to state that we did take off last week. And it was the first week off that we've had. I think, let's see, in 2024, we had 1 week off. Was it 1 week off or 2 weeks off? We had a month off, I think.
We had a month off.
We had 4 weeks off in May. But yeah, we took 1 week off last week just to catch up and had some health issues that I had to go take care of. My blood pressure was insanely high. It was like 183 over like 140.
Yeah.
So I got to get off the juice. But I just injected some test and Deca before I came over here, so doesn't really help it much.
All I know is you told me the symptoms like, hey, you
Yeah.
should check your blood pressure. That sounds like the shit I went through.
Blurry vision, nosebleeds, super bad migraine. It wasn't good. Went to the doctor. They were like, "Holy shit, you should be dead right now."
You should have had a stroke.
Yeah.
But, like the doctor told me, oh, you're lucky. You're young still, so that's what saved you.
They didn't say I was young. They said, "Yo, bitch."
Oh, well.
Good job. I was like, okay. But we got all that under control. Healthy as a horse, hopefully. So yeah, that's the reason why we were gone last week. We apologize, but we shall continue on.
Yeah, I still got a fucked up elbow.
Yeah, Dan still has tennis elbow from jerking it too much. I told him to stop, but he just continues. Anyway.
Not my problem, though.
All right, so let's talk about our first cryptid that we're going to discuss today. Dan, why don't you tell us about it?
So the first cryptid that we're going to discuss is called Abarimon. Did I say that right? Abarimon, right? No, it is not a Digimon. I thought it was at first, but it's not. But the Abarimon was a legendary race of humanoid beings that supposedly lived in the country of India in the Himalayan mountains. These humanoids look like normal human beings. However, they had backwards feet.
Despite having backwards feet, they were still able to run fast as fuck. The locals there were like, "Holy shit, there goes a freaking Abarimon." They're just, so yeah, we have a picture of what they look like. Well, right there. Looks like Jesus with backwards feet. Look at him go.
Why does it look like a depiction of Jesus running with backwards feet?
You think I would look like that if I was to strip down and run with backwards feet?
Actually, yeah.
So There isn't an exact date of the first documented encounter with one of these beings. However, there are a ton of stories from the locals that live in that area.
The locals state that these backwards feet beings lived alongside wild animals and were only found in the valley of the Himalayan mountains. The Himalayan mountains are cold, aren't they?
Yeah, super cold.
And they were naked.
They were butt naked. Yeah, butt freaking naked, dude.
Naked. I mean, not naked. Someone's gonna, oh, you can't say it right. But the Abarimon could only breathe the air in this valley because it was supposedly of special quality, and this made it impossible for these humanoids to leave this valley.
They were stuck there in that small little valley of special oxygen. Yeah. Now, there is a possible explanation for these humanoids. Throughout the years, some people state that these Abarimon weren't cryptids, but in fact were just normal people who were born deformed and had their feet that faced backwards. And a lot of people state that there's like a family of them, of deformed people with backwards feet. And that's who they were. Another theory is that it's an entire race of cryptids that have been undiscovered. Just humanoid cryptids with backwards feet. How exhilarating. But supposedly they're extinct now and you can't find them. And if you go to the area where they're supposedly residing at in the Himalayan mountains, the locals there do talk about them, but they state that they're no longer there. That they just disappeared. Probably because they were butt naked in the cold weather, running around with bare feet.
Oh, one of the old philosophers wrote about them in one of his books.
Plato?
Not Plato. It's the other
Pliny.
Pliny. Pliny the Elder. He wrote about them. And that's actually where people first heard about them, was from him.
Yep. That's the first kind of like mention of them in history.
Very interesting.
And that right there is our first cryptid. You got the Jesus cryptid, as I like to call it, because that's what it looks like to me.
It really does look like Jesus with backwards feet.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about our next cryptid, Dan.
All right. So the next cryptid that we have is called the Airborne Frogman. This Airborne Frogman is also known as the Coney Island monster. So this Airborne Frogman was a strange humanoid creature that many residents of Coney Island, New York City, spotted over 100 years ago.
It was a bright, sunny day in the summer of 1880. Hundreds of people were at Coney Island. They were, enjoying the beach, catching some rays, just, doing what people were doing at the beach, sometimes banging. I don't know. Was I there in 1880? No. But I imagine that some people did. Some people swam with the fishes. Other people probably bird watched. Well, as these individuals were enjoying the sun rays and bird watching and banging, they happened to notice something in the distance. Flying several hundred feet above the water in the ocean was a strange-looking creature.
This creature was described as mostly human-looking, but with large bat wings and the legs of a frog. The creature's wings flapped loudly as it flew around above the water, and hundreds of people stopped what they were doing. So all the sun tanning, bird watching, banging, they stopped that and looked up into the sky to see this creature.
And most of the individuals that were watching this creature just flap its wings and fly around in pretty much like a circle, a lot of the people were intrigued. However, some individuals freaked out and just started screaming and running away. So it was kind of like a mixture. I think they said it was like a 1/8 of the people that were there were frightened and screaming, while the other 7/8 were just chilling and watching it.
I don't get why people start screaming and yelling and running away like that. Just
I mean, it's something strange. I mean, look here. Here's a picture of it. And if you are not watching us on YouTube, you should be. But if you are not, you can go to our website, theoriesofthethirdkind.com, click on today's episode, and we'll have all the photographs there of these cryptids. And as you can see in this one, it's sort of a painting. These people are like, the fuck? That one person standing in the water with his arm out. The fuck is that?
You got the girl over there on the left that's just don't even know what's going on.
Completely oblivious.
Then you got the kid.
The creature looks like it's spotting her, about to go pick her up. And she's just kind of walking around looking for seashells.
Honestly, I think he spotted the baby.
Maybe. Whatever it is, it's a weird looking creature. And if I had seen something that big flying around in the middle of the day while I was at the beach, I would leave.
I mean, in the middle of the day, yeah, I would leave. I wouldn't go screaming and be like, oh shit, let's get out of here.
That right there is the Airborne Frogman, aka the Coney Island Monster.
Which some people say that it was just someone parachuting wearing flippers. Which wouldn't the
parachute be mentioned?
The parachute would be mentioned, and then the whole flapping of the wings.
That doesn't make sense.
No. And the first thing that came to mind was those flight suits, but they didn't have those back then.
No. Mm-mm.
I don't know. Very weird.
Mm-hmm. If you or a loved one have seen the Coney Island Monster, and we're not talking about Joey Chestnut, write a comment down below and let us know. All right, let's talk about our next cryptid. Dan, what do you got for us?
All right, so our next cryptid is a unique one. This one is called the Alien Cosmonaut. So back in 1975, there was a Japanese man who captured one of the most intriguing images ever captured, of an alleged alien being.
So it all began on the night of March 24th, 1975, in the town of Karanoe, Japan, when an individual named Gichi Shiora was at a local landfill in that town, just minding his own business, just chilling at a local landfill at nighttime.
As Shiota was working, he noticed something odd. About 300 feet away from him was a luminous humanoid figure in a weird armor-like suit and was just hovering about 7 feet off the ground.
Shiota was not alarmed by seeing this creature. However, he did immediately develop a headache upon placing his eyes on this creature. He was like, fuck, my head hurts. It's probably more like, oh, my head hurts. But as he developed this headache and kind of was like, oh man, he looked up. The humanoid had disappeared into the night. He didn't know where it went.
Following that encounter, Shiota began obsessing with capturing a photograph of this humanoid creature so that everyone would believe, like, hey, I saw one. Here's proof. So he gathered up 3 cameras and he returned to the landfill the next night and then the night after and the night after, just sitting there waiting to see this humanoid creature again.
Finally, a week later, on the night of March 31st, Shiota was chilling in the landfill, just waiting for the humanoid like he had previously done the nights before, when he developed a brutal headache again. Shortly after the headache developed, Shiota looked up, and there was what he described as a bluish-white electrical orb just floating roughly 300 feet in front of him.
Shiota stared at this orb as it just floated in the distance. Then several minutes later, an almost 6-foot-tall humanoid apparition appeared in the middle of the orb. The entity descended downwards toward the ground until it was hovering just a foot off the ground. It then began to glide towards Shiota.
It was at this point that he decided to pull out one of his 3 cameras that he had on him and decided to take a photograph of this entity. And he ended up publishing the photograph, and it is quite bizarre. And we do have that photograph, and we'll publish it on our website for anyone that wants to take a look at it. There you go, right there. It's a very blurry photograph. It looks like a man or a woman, could be a woman, in a sort of like a white hazmat suit, maybe like a Delta with a Delta hood. You know those Delta hoods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, those new, like, they look like motorcycle helmet ones?
Mm-hmm.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So after this photograph was taken, the entity continued to move towards Shiota a little more, then all of a sudden it veered to the right. The entity then turned back into a glowing orb and then traveled very fast into the distance, completely disappearing into the night sky. Following that, Shiota never encountered this odd creature again.
And something worth noting is that just a month before Shiota had encountered this entity and the bluish-white glowing orb, 2 young students that lived in a nearby city in Japan, they had a similar encounter. They claimed to have come face to face with an unknown alien entity that was wearing a metal-like suit. And that's all that they had, really. I mean, they couldn't get any evidence like Shiota did.
No, they didn't have a camera, so they weren't able to take a photograph of it. But, hey, some speculate that there is a connection between these 2 cases due to the, time period, and they had similar characteristics and proximity of them, how close they were in, I guess, distance.
Yep. So that right there is our third cryptid. Very odd. Very strange photograph. In my personal opinion, I think it's fake and made up, but it could be real. Who knows? We will never know.
I mean, 3 cameras. Was he supposed to set like 2 of them up and have one in hand, or?
No, I think he got 3 because he wanted to make sure that he had, if one didn't work, throw that bitch to the side, get out the second one. That didn't work. Third time's a charm.
Very tourist-like.
Japanese proverb says,
Confucius say,
camera don't work.
Use another one.
Use another. That one don't work. Use another. That one don't work. You beat alien metal ass.
Then take picture with one work.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about this last cryptid.
All right. So this next cryptid that we're going to cover is not your typical cryptid. This is an actual alien cryptid called the Milchin alien.
So this all began on May 10th, 1978 in Poland. A farmer named Jan Wolowski was out driving a horse-drawn cart. He was just driving along, when all of a sudden, 2 alien-like beings randomly jumped onto his cart and sat next to Jan and began to speak to him in a strange language.
Originally, Jan mistaken these alien beings as being foreigners because of their slanted eyes. Ooh.
That's what he said.
What's that? Oh, canceled? Gotcha. Well, because of this, the slanted eyes of the aliens, Jan continued to drive his cart with the 2 beings aboard, just thinking that they were foreigners. Like, okay, you could just chill with me. That's cool.
Yeah. You know, it makes sense, too, because he's like, okay, you're speaking this weird language. You got slanted eyes. I'm just going to continue driving my cart. And that's what he did. He continued just driving it. And then all of a sudden, he arrived at a clearing. And he's like, I didn't fucking go this way. What the hell's going on? And at this clearing was this large object, longer than a bus, just hovering. Jan stopped his cart and stared in amazement as this hovering alien aircraft just sat there in front of him. So he decided to get off of his cart and began walking towards it.
So the 2 aliens follow Jan, got off the cart, and guided Jan aboard their ship. Their craft was white and without any notable external features. Its size was explained by Jan to be roughly 5 meters in height and as long as a bus. It hovered in the air at an altitude of about 16 feet, or 4.9 meters.
There were no lights or windows on the spacecraft, only the daylight coming through the craft's door. Now, the craft's interior was described by Jan as black with a grayish tint, similar to that of the alien creatures' outfits. And we do have a photograph of the alien creatures along with an illustration of the spaceship. And the very odd looking beings. They have hoodies on is what it looks like. And I could see how the middle one maybe could be mistaken as a foreigner.
That one, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one, obviously, hopefully they weren't green.
And you know what that alien spaceship looks like? You know when you get a new CPU and you have a CPU cooler and you got to put it down on the CPU? That's what it looks like. It looks like a CPU cooler.
It does, yeah, because they have the 4 little prongs that go down and you have to screw them on tight. Mm-hmm. Bottom's flat.
Damn.
It does actually look like one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, upon arriving at the entrance of the ship, and Jan explaining what it looked like inside, 2 additional short green-faced entities that were about 5 feet tall and had black uniforms appeared before him. They gestured to Jan for him to take off his clothes, in which he did.
They're about to fuck. He's about to bang some aliens.
Take off your clothes.
Hey, I'm all for that, okay? As long as they consent, I'm here for it. Look, if we have aliens that
Aaron's
come down,
Jan reincarnated.
I will be the ambassador for alien intercourse.
Aaron's the intergalactic sperm bank. They go there and they just
Come on, come get your sperm.
They
your
go in there.
human
There's no
sperm."
receptionist. It's just Aaron.
Yeah. Let me pin you in. Yeah, you're good. Come on. All right. So after Jan took his clothes off, he began noticing that there were several birds in the front of the door of the aircraft. Like after you enter in, there's an additional front door, and there was these birds that were there. And these birds were moving their legs and wings, but seemed to be immobilized, sort of kind of like trapped in some suspension or something. So they were moving their feet and flapping their wings, and they're just chilling there, not moving at all.
Huh.
Also, inside the craft, Jan noticed that there were several benches for people to sit on.
Mm-hmm. Casting spacecraft. I get it. So Jan was then immediately examined by the aliens on board with a tool that resembled 2 dishes. During the exam, other aliens were standing around and eating. Jan stated that the food that they were eating was something similar to icicles and even offered him some, but he politely refused. And he's like, no, I'm good. I'm over here naked, and you're over here eating by me. Kind of weird.
So after the exam, Jan was then led back to the front door. But before exiting the craft, he turned around and he decided to bow to the entities. He said, "Oh, thank you." And they bowed back to him.
You're welcome.
And he exited the craft. And shortly after exiting, Jan watched as the door to the craft closed. It began to levitate, the craft itself, and then flew away and disappeared into the distance.
So afterwards, Jan returned home to his family and notified them of what had just happened to him, urging them to come see the floating craft. He notified his sons, who called the other neighbors, and together they went to investigate the site. So they all went to the crash site, or not crash site. They all went to where the craft was. They noticed that the grass where the craft had been showed signs of usage in it, being trodden down, covered with dew, and you could see paths in all directions going to and from this patch of grass.
Yeah. And as everyone was just like the neighbors and his family were like looking at the area, Jan decided to return home, leaving the rest of his neighbors and family there at the site. He was like, "Oh, you all see that? All right, see you later." What a dick. Jan's sons claimed that there were footprints left behind by the beings, though they did not detail whether the footprints were larger or smaller than their own. Also, it is worth noting that a 6-year-old boy claimed to have witnessed a bus-like spacecraft hover over a barn and then climb high into the sky and vanish. And this was around the same time that Jan claimed to have seen the craft and the alien beings as well, and it was in the same area. So this 6-year-old boy kind of like corroborated his Jan's accounts.
So that right there was the milchin incident, and the majority of the individuals believe that it was either a hoax made up by Jan for publicity, which I don't know if I'd be bragging about. Oh, they took me on their spaceship, got me naked and
ate popsicles or icicles and fondled me. Ooh.
And then as I left, I bowed to them to thank them, and they bowed back.
Thank you.
But some believe that it was a fake memory implanted in Jan by his hypnotist, which, how does he have a random hypnotist?
Well, back then everyone did. That's how you got rid of like, oh, you're feeling bad? Hypnosis. Oh, you got PTSD from whatever? Hypnotist. Hypnosis.
I feel like if I went and did that, the hypnotist would get like, I don't know, it was like backfire. All that negative energy would just go back.
No, they train.
I don't know. It's a lot. A lot in there.
So there are a few other theories, such as the alien creatures might have been demons. That's a very popular one, believe it or not. And other individuals believe that it was a secret government test by the Chinese, that they put some of their men in these weird black suits, something similar to what Kanye would wear. They painted their faces green and put them on some special aircraft that they were pretty much experimenting with, and decided, hey, fly over to Poland and fucking freak out a random person and get them to take their clothes off. They're like, okay. So yeah. Regardless, to this day, This is the only notable Polish alien abduction story. Also, 1978 was the year of the most UFO sightings in Poland to date. So there was some connection with this because this incident happened in 1978, and that same year, a fuck ton of people saw UFOs in Poland. So maybe it was because of those sightings and everyone reporting it that Jan decided to jump along the mix and realize, hey, this is good publicity. I'm going to make a story up because everybody's talking about UFOs. Or maybe he really did see one.
It's possible.
We don't know.
He did speak at, I think, a couple UFO conferences telling his story.
Mm-hmm. And I think they have some type of like statue up or something for him.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Hang
on.
Like a memorial or some shit. Here's where the clothes of Jan was taken off.
The Milchin UFO Memorial.
It's a big deal over there.
It's not what I expected. It's pretty much a big stone. I'll throw up a picture here. But it's a big stone, has a plaque on it, and then at the very top is a perfect cube. Which doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Figured it'd be maybe like a bus-like UFO or something on it, or at least just a plaque saying it, but...
Yeah, that's strange that they put that on there.
Yeah.
But that right there is our last cryptid sighting, which some people will say that that's not a cryptid, but I like to consider it a cryptid. So,
I mean, I did cover the Metal Man of
Falkville,
and some believe that was an alien, but it was considered a cryptid.
Mm-hmm. And we did have these aliens inside here that look like a metal man.
Yep. Then you have the Hopkinsville goblins, which supposedly aliens, but cryptids. So
that shit was crazy.
That's by far like one of the best.
Oh yeah,
out there. Which I did find I thought I found another one that would be kind of like it, but it was debunked. It's like the Girona gnome, which they had like a picture of it or something of a specimen in a jar, and it looked very weird. But I'm pretty sure it's debunked from what it said.
That looks like one of those sheep that is born deformed or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Poor little thing. Well, if you or a loved one have encountered a cryptid, or you have encountered an alien who asked you to take all of your clothes off, please send us an email and notify us where the coordinates are of this alien who is requesting these things. This is very important for us to know. But with that being said, that is the end of our cryptids episode. We apologize for it being so short. That's what she said. But we will be back next week. And we hope you all have a good weekend. And we love you.
Hope everyone had a fun, happy New Year's, Christmas, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
And just be safe out there.
So that being said, I want to thank you for joining us. And again, thank you for all your support, love, and care. Without you, we could not do this. But with that being said, Dan, would you like to roll us out?
Sure will. It's okay to be out of this world with your thoughts.
Because you are not alone.
Boom. Now get in my bus ship and strip.